walking into the movie theater to see Sounds of Freedom. We promised a movie review. And once we left, we realized that this wasn't the type of movie that we just wanted to hop on the camera, leaving the movie theater and tell you, great movie, whatever the case may be.
I don't even think we talked to each other when we walked out.
No, definitely.
It was silent for a little bit. But everyone was like that.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
Yeah, so we felt that our review needed to be taken a little more seriously, and we really wanted to take time to talk about the movie and the message of this movie. So we decided after we left the movie that we were going to wait until Monday and actually sit down and film a conversation about the movie. Because, it was, in regards to the movie, very heavy, right? So, this is not an entertainment movie. Obviously, it was based on a true story.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
They showed the true story, the characters that they portrayed at the end as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the guy from Homeland Security that this movie was based on, man, like, what a hero, right? I mean, the things that he did. So, not a movie based on entertainment, right? It's a very heavy movie emotionally. It's very difficult to watch. It was weird when the movie ended because everybody was just like,
a loss of words.
Yeah, there's just no talking. Normally when you leave a movie, there's like excitement and energy, and it was almost like you leave the movie theater and come into this weird reality. Like it was almost like the light from like walking outside was just different. People were just definitely impacted. And so we had some conversations after the movie. So I've been familiar with the whole human trafficking thing and child trafficking. There was some involvement that I had in the past with supporting organizations that help rescue kids. And so we're aware of this. But obviously this movie brings a lot back to light of how serious this stuff is and how it's growing. And you can't help but leave and think, okay, what's next, right? And how do I allow myself to be impacted from this movie to maybe do something about it, or at least explore what can be done? And so that's what we're going to focus on. Because again, it's not one of those scenarios, at least personally, that I feel like you can know about this and then not want to do something, right? But what do you do? That's the conversation that we had. And we still don't necessarily know the answer, but I think we had a good enough conversation where we have some direction, and that's what we wanted to share. So one is the movie, right? We'll talk about the movie. There's options to get free tickets to this movie. So maybe we'll drop a link below in the description, but I believe it was angel.com/tickets or something like that. Again, we'll get the link. But this movie was originally filmed in 2017. It was finished. So the amount of effort that has been made to suppress this movie is just as big of the story of how sad this is as the actual stuff that's going on. So Hollywood did not want this movie out. And if you've been in reality over the past few years, you know that Hollywood has been exposed, and governments have been exposed, and elites have been exposed of trafficking and human trafficking. And we don't have to talk about Jeffrey Epstein and all of this stuff. We're all aware of this stuff. But they definitely fought very hard to suppress this movie so that we couldn't see it. And they ended up having to raise personal funds, right?
Yep.
They ended up having to raise personal funds to get this movie out at theaters. So once you watch it, you realize why, because it points out the obvious of potentially people who could be behind this. What was very interesting, though, is, and I don't think I'm giving anything away, at the end of the movie, you stay past the credits. There's a clock counting down. They want you to hear the message. This isn't like Marvel, where you stay after the credits and some people stay and some people go. There's a counter that lets you know there's a special message coming up. And one thing that's very obvious is money is not the objective for them. They made that clear, and that's why they said they actually want to give away free tickets, or they give you the opportunity to send free tickets to people. They want people to see this movie. But before we get into that too, talking about suppressing it, what has been on TikTok the past few weeks we've seen?
Yeah, it's been crazy.
So some of the stories we've seen have included Fire alarms going off. What else?
There was one movie theater that had like a over sound of, they claimed that it was for people who were blind, so it was someone actually describing the movie on top of the movie playing. So basically it was like two people talking at the same time for the whole movie.
People come out and complain, it's not our fault. We have to get this situated so that everybody can feel accommodated.
Excuse me. This horrible smell. It smelled almost like an electrical fire.
We're getting refunds for the Sound of Freedom because apparently the water pressure in the bathrooms aren't working here.
It's about to start. We just pause it like a second before it goes. Just to let you guys know again, it is gonna get hot. It is gonna be like that throughout the whole movie.
So why should only this one though, not all the other ones?
Because this was assigned in a theater that was smaller, unfortunately, due to high demand in an audience.
Nah, bullshit,
It was just,
dude.
well,
That's bullshit though.
we have a 9 and we have an 11.
It's actually happening.
Give you our free passes to come back and see it again, hopefully without interruption. I unfortunately apologize for the inconvenience, but we're getting it hopefully looked at later in the week. Sorry, guys.
To basically kind of agitate you to get up and leave. One story was that they said they had a flow of water in the bathrooms that weren't strong enough to flush the toilets, so they refunded everyone tickets. There's been lights that have been kept on, fire alarms going off. Thankfully, we didn't experience any of those, and the theater was fully packed. We even went to a matinee, which means like we went before 5 o'clock. I think we had like a 3 o'clock movie, and there wasn't a single seat, even the ones like in the front. So it was really nice to see that the movie theaters were fully stacked with people, and that particular movie theater wasn't trying to do anything to get us out of it. But it has been all over TikTok. Industries trying to, suppress it. So
yeah, what's crazy about this too is this isn't people just saying that this stuff happened. These people are actually documenting it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're
happening.
showing you this stuff happening, and that just is crazy to me. Before we went to see the movie, like you see this, and all you have to do.
No other movie has been done that way.
Like shutting the AC down in the movie, not showing it, fire alarms, again, all of these things. And these people film this stuff. Like I even saw one guy that he showed where they were saying the seats were sold out. There was only one seat available, and it was the very front row. And you probably don't want to, nobody wants to sit in the front row at a movie theater and look up like that. It's terrible. So they had one ticket available. He bought the ticket, filmed the whole process, walked into the movie theater, and there wasn't a single person in there. So they've even been shown that they're marking this movie as sold out in some scenarios where people can't buy tickets. This is just crazy to think. You can go to TikTok, go to the search button, and then type in like
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, Sound of Freedom, and you'll just see hundreds of stories of them not wanting this message out. I even saw mainstream media is now saying that this movie isn't based on facts, that child trafficking is actually not an issue, all of this crazy stuff. So anytime that the government or mainstream media or anybody is trying to prevent a message from the people, those are the messages you want to pay attention to. That is one thing I've learned. Anytime they're telling you not to watch something or not to listen to something, that is something that you absolutely need to try to pay attention to. Just as the opposite. If they're shoving it down your face, you probably don't need to listen to it. So anyway, enough about the movie. Go see it. Sounds of Freedom. It's a must-see. I think everybody should see it. I think you should. Pat Bet David was posting yesterday about people were asking him, should you let your kids watch this movie?
100%.
Yes, you should.
What struck me, and I didn't bring it up to you because it was many moons ago, but I remember as a young girl going to the mall with my mom, and there would be like modeling agencies. I can't remember the name of them. It started with a B, Babazon or something, but it was modeling agencies set up in the center of the mall.
Yeah, I remember those.
And I would get pamphlets, and then they would get your information. I wouldn't even give it to them. Then 2 weeks later, they would call my house phone and ask my mom to take me down to these events, these modeling events. I'm gonna call her and get the name of it, but it was like weird because then you're like, how do they get my information? Like that maybe wasn't what they were trying to do. They probably weren't trying to human traffic, but what was weird to me was the connection that I made with this movie, and that's how the movie started. Was the little girl, they approached the little girl and said, oh my gosh, you have this amazing talent, you're beautiful, you should come down for headshots and things like that. And that's basically how they reeled it in. But as parents, sometimes there's moments where, if you're a new parent or, parenting is overwhelming, you may be naive in certain situations where you feel comfortable, but you shouldn't feel comfortable and things aren't going right, even though you are second guessing and want to give your kids an opportunity when in reality, it's not a great opportunity at all. But that goes to show, your kids don't need to be naive either. We need to educate our children at a very young age to be aware. Stranger danger, that's a phrase we've been using for many, 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 many years, but it's serious. And no matter, this day and age, you dangle something fun or cool or money or this, that, and the other, toys. Like, kids, if they're not taught, they don't know any better. They learn from us. So if we're not teaching them and someone comes up to them in a space where you feel like your kid is safe, and they're being coerced to going here or listening to them doing this and taking something from them on that, you need to educate your children.
Absolutely.
And it's uncomfortable. It's probably going to be something that they're not wanting to learn about or wanting to watch a movie about. It's not fun. But I think if you stress enough to them that this one movie, being aware of these scenarios and what these kids went through, could change their life one day. It could save their life.
Yeah, I think it lets it educates parents on how cautious we really need to be, with the internet and stuff. One of the main things is that's also, this is a tough conversation. So I think when it comes to child trafficking, I think the reason why, as big as it is, it should be a way larger conversation, but it's not, because when you talk about this stuff, it's very hard to talk about. But
especially as a parent,
it shows, and again, I'm not giving away the movie because there's not a storyline. This isn't entertainment. Again, this isn't like you're following a main character and you want to know. This is a movie that is based on things happening. And towards the opening, it shows multiple real footage of kids getting snatched and kids getting kidnapped into human trafficking. And when you're watching that, you're realizing these aren't actors. This isn't Hollywood. This is real situations where, babies are getting snatched out of their mom's arms and kids are getting kidnapped and thrown into vans that are being sold into trafficking. So again, bringing awareness to yourself and your kids that you need to pay attention. This stuff is happening is important. So go see the movie.
Yes.
So a few things that we want to talk about, so we can just get this to an end, but hopefully also do our little part of like helping spread this messages. Facts about this. This is what's crazy, right? I'm gonna read some facts here that were from the movie, but in regards to human trafficking, which is also called sex slavery, right? So as of now, there are more people trapped in human trafficking and sex slavery than slavery in all of history, even the times of slavery. So sometimes we think we've surpassed this, right? We're out of this. Slavery is something that we were able to overcome as people, and we left this in the past, and it's a thing of the past. And the reality is, no, just a type of slavery was left in the past, but there's a whole different type of slavery that is bigger than anything we've ever seen, and it's also the fastest growing
industry.
Yeah, the fastest growing organized crime industry in the world, and it's about to surpass the drug industry. And one of the things that they were saying about this is because, God, this is hard to say, but like with drugs or other crime industries, right? It's the amount of times that can be sold. With these kids and with humans, it's there's no time limit, right? Or there's no many these people can be sold 5-10 times a day for years. So the essentially the like reoccurring revenue of this for one product is what's driving it to being a attractive crime model by
150 billion.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So there's as far as stats here go, okay, so there's an estimated, and this is some old data. I think the movie brought in new data. So there's over 100 million people that are trapped in slavery, right? And kids make up over a quarter of that. So over 25% of that is made up of kids at the average age of 4 to 7 years old. Okay, so that's just some of the facts. Minors make up a third of the trafficking. Trafficking happens all over the world, but what I found very disturbing is that the United States is the #1 consumer of this, which means that it's people in our own country. It's Americans.
They're wanting it, but they're getting them from outside of the country to traffic them inside the United States, which
is sickening to think.
You don't have to do the dots, follow the dots on that. Who's organizing that?
Yeah, and we do hear, like, obviously, you have a lot of Americans who are going to other countries and lining this up, but it happens here during Super Bowls, during big events. These are things that is typically when this stuff is happening. So while we're all caught up in what team is playing what team for the Super Bowl, realizing that at that same area, at that same location, this stuff is happening. So those are things that we need to be aware of. The real conversation here that I had and that Jenna had with each other that kind of lost me is, what do you do, right? You leave this movie and, like, you think about, okay, well, there's all of this stuff, but what am I supposed to do? I can't pack up and move and go try to individually fight crime cartels and, rescue people. So what do you do? The thing that I get bothered by is, I don't want to say bothered by it. People are like, well, the awareness. Awareness is important. But if 10 million people know about something and none of them do anything, then was the awareness of any value?
No.
So I believe awareness is first, but action is second. And then I heard some suggestions of, well, support the businesses of the people who produce this. I'm glad that they're stepping out, but you also are just going to be supporting their businesses. You're going to be supporting that individual. Yes, they are putting a message out just as we are, right? But if we're sitting here talking about this, a way to help is not to support our businesses. That's not going to make a difference. You need to find, and what we need to do is we need to find organizations out there that are actually fighting this. They're on the front lines. Now, I'm not going to give any organization names right now in this particular segment or vlog. We will share down the road as we find things. I'll be comfortable to share resources, but I don't want to share anything without doing extreme research. And I have been experienced with working with charities, and you want to do research. You have to do research. And it's unfortunate for the charities that are doing good that there's charities that have done bad, and it clouts people's judgment of charities. But the first thing is looking and seeing, again, the people that are on the front lines. And when you're looking for these organizations, again, people who are out spreading a message, that's what we're doing. We have to spread a message. But you really want to find the people who are fighting this on the front line. And there are a lot of organizations out there who are actually in it. They're actually fighting. They're actually trying to rescue these kids. They're actually rescuing these kids. They're putting them in safe houses. They're rehabilitating them. They're getting them off of the drugs that they're given, because these kids are, like, drugged up from the beginning. And so you can only imagine, after being sold 5 times a day as a 7-year-old kid, doped up with drugs, and you're stuck in this for 2 years, what type of damage and mental damage this does to a human being, let alone a kid. There's people out there who are rehabilitating them. Getting them safe is one thing, but rehabilitating them and making them a functional human is, I can only imagine the battle and how long that takes. So, starting and doing the research on these types of organizations, I think, is probably the first step. And I do believe that if you are a human being, you will not hear this message or see this movie and not want to do something. My thing is, I know how fast we are as humans, meaning that we hear things, we're impacted by them. 3 days later, we're already back on the next thing. And I don't want to see the purpose of this movie and all of this attention that it's getting happen, right? I don't want to go back to your regular life and us go back to our regular life and forget that this exists. Want to do something about it, a little something. That can be donating to it. That can be finding out how to support. That could be sharing that charity. That could be volunteering for these charities. That could be donating percentages of profits to these charities. It could be so many things, right? There's no telling. You reach out to some of these charities and they're probably underfunded because the government isn't helping them. They probably have limited resources because the government isn't helping them, right? We're not putting resources into this when we should be. So start there, I would say. Go see the movie, because I think supporting a movie that's spreading this awareness is good. And then be impacted by it. I think you need to think about it. We need to have these conversations. Hopefully this type of stuff doesn't get censored on social media or on YouTube because we're talking about it. And then third, share it. Share the message and share different resources. So if you find organizations, please comment them below. If you know of them, please comment them, message them to us, share them on your social media platforms. We're going to take a plan. We don't really have a plan of action right now. We have some ideas of what we want to do. But I'm going to continue fighting to hopefully do something about this, because again, it was something that I was very passionate about. And then just like I just said, you just forget about things, and these things
It's not affecting you personally. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, and I remember being so impacted by this, and then life just went on, and I didn't forget about it, but I never thought about it. I don't want that to happen again. So we're gonna work over the next few months on trying to figure out how we can be a part personally to at least contribute to the companies that are out there fighting this. So we'll put some resources below. Just do your research. You know, I don't have, again, any charities we recommend, but we will once we find out. Once we do our own research. I don't mind sharing anything we find. I would just say start doing your research. Educate yourself on this. It's very hard to digest, but start by doing that, okay? Start by just taking this message and going and doing some research. All of this stuff is on the internet. You read the facts about this, it'll blow your mind. Go see the movie, find some organizations.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Let's just do something, even just one little thing. So, but this is something that I hope we see end soon for sure.
An estimated 2 million children are trafficked every year, and we can help them. Sound of Freedom is based on a true story about real-life heroes saving kids from the dark world of child trafficking. We know this is heartbreaking and it hurts to look at, but the first step in helping these children is hearing their story. Not enough people know this problem exists, and even fewer people are willing to do anything about it. Our goal is to inspire 2 million people to attend the film's opening weekend, to represent the 2 million trafficked children around the world. To spread the word, Angel Studios set up a Pay It Forward program where you can pay for someone else's ticket who might not otherwise see it. If the ticket price is stopping you from attending, claim your free ticket at angel.com/freedom. Sound of Freedom opens the week of July 4th. Every parent, every adult, and every teenager in America should be there to see it. If millions of us come together today to see this film, we could propel the movement to help save millions of children around the world. And you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.